Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Every Calorie Counts podcast. Today, we are here with Steve Mitropoulos. I do want to remind everyone that we are recording live on Zoom, and this episode is available on YouTube. So if you're not driving, go ahead over to YouTube and check it out. But hi, Steve. How are you? Can you introduce yourself? And
Good. How you guys doing? So yeah, like you said, my name's Steve Mitropoulos. I am from New Jersey, with you guys. I am 30 years old now. I've been a competitive bodybuilder for 13 years. Coaching for the last 3 now. Yeah, that's pretty much.
You've only been coaching for 3
yeah, I was
years?
just gonna say, like that's like double the time I have.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. I hate you MFers that just start coaching in
That's
3 years and
crazy.
you have like twice as many clients as I do already. I'm like, you son of a fucking bitch. It's because you're better looking than me, Steve. If I had your beard three
Yeah, he
years
has a better
ago,
beard. That's what it is.
yeah, exactly. That's really what it comes down to. But what about go give me a little bit about, because honestly, I think we met for the first time like last year at Big Cat or something. Yeah, I think it was Big
Yes.
Cat. It was the first time I've ever met you in person. So
Yeah.
without having to, but I do remember when you and Johnny made your last run. I remember seeing you on Instagram and everything. And at that time he had a few good local guys at that point, Jersey-based guys. And I can't remember off the top of my head all of them, but you were one of those guys that stood out. Bodybuilding specifically, but give me a little bit of background before that in terms of like where'd you come from, how'd you get into it, the common rhetoric BS story.
Yeah, so I started like training when I was 17. I was a junior in high school. I was like the kid who never fit in high school. Actually I was bullied, which led to my dad getting me into the gym. A little more on the personal side, like I missed a couple months of high school. I had like, on the whole suicide side of things. Like I said, I didn't fit in very well. And then I think I was like 120 pounds, if that. I played ice hockey, and when I got to high school and then I made the varsity teams is when like the first time I started to get like really hit, and my speed didn't matter anymore because all these kids were 180, 90, 200 pounds. So after the couple months of school where things were a little rough in life
What
with,
year was that?
that was 2010.
I mean, like what year within your high school?
Junior year.
Junior year. Okay.
Yeah, so like I didn't have many friends. I didn't fit in much. I didn't really do much, but play roller hockey, ice hockey, do my homework, and just be by myself. So then after that, my dad, we went over. I don't know if you guys remember the Pennsauken Mart. Marina might be too young, but Tim, you might remember. It was like this huge flea market in Pennsauken down here in South Jersey. He bought like
You're
this.
too far down for me.
He bought like this
South.
dingy. He bought this dingy squat rack. It was like rusted, like
Nice.
it was a piece of shit. And he put it in our basement. And Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I would get home from school and we would go in the basement and we would do 5 sets of 20 on squats. That's how it started. He would just blast like metal music, and we used to just squat. And he was like,
That's
"All right,
awesome.
we're gonna start to build your legs up so you have more strength on the ice, and we're gonna start to try and put some weight on you." So he started having me drink a gallon of milk a day. I remember.
Wow.
And I was doing like, I think it was like 5 or 6 peanut butter jelly sandwiches. And then my dad would prep me chicken, broccoli, and rice for lunch. So I think like within the first like 3, 4 months of that, I got up to like 155 pounds. So then my confidence started to go up a little bit more and stuff. And then senior year of high school, I started to get more into the nutrition side. So once I got my license, I joined LA Fitness over in Cherry Hill, and I started just going there. I was still doing legs 3 times a week. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And then that was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tuesday, Thursday, I would go and I'd bench press and do incline dumbbell press for chest. And then I would do dumbbell presses for shoulders. And I was like, you know what? I want to do a competition. So me and my dad looked into competitions, and I did an OCB show when I was 18, and I won the team division there. And then I won like the novice class or whatever they had. So then I was hooked from there. And then somebody told me like there was a professional bodybuilder over at Mount Laurel. So I walked into LA Fitness, and it was Jeff Long.
Yeah.
I walked in, I saw this dude's calves, and I was like, that's what I want to look like. Like, so I was like so scared to talk to him. And he actually approached me one day, and I was like, screw it, I'll drive the extra 30 minutes just so I can see how this dude's training. Maybe I'll talk to him one day because I was only 18. I was very shy. So he came up to me and actually commented on my legs. And then we started training together. He coached me. I did 2 NPC shows with him. Um, and then I drifted off from him. And then I found Johnny. And he's been doing all my stuff for the last now almost 10 years. So
Nice. So first and foremost, your dad's the man. That's awesome to have that kind of
yeah.
support system. You know what I mean? Like that's like obviously you weren't doing well on your own there as far as, you needed the support, obviously, but to have somebody there like that, and not just be there for support, but also push you a little bit, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, of
get you
course.
to that next level. Yeah. And then obviously you found what you love through that. And then secondly, Jeff is the man. I also fed Jeff back in the day too. Jeff was one of the first guys. Actually, Jeff, I think might have been the first pro that I worked with, and then it was this specifically for meal prep things. But I used to feed Jeff, and then I think I ended up working with Josh Holiday after that, and feeding him a little bit too there. So Jeff is the man. Jeff is the type of dude where if anybody's ever met him, they know he's a very and he had a big back then probably had died out a little bit, but when he came up, there was a lot of buzz around a
Oh
guy
yeah.
like Jeff too. Yeah, all I'm saying is he didn't have to be as good of a dude as he is and or was.
Yeah.
Um yeah, but that's awesome. So you had your dad was basically the guy that got you into it and helped you kind of get started there.
Yep. And then I actually my dad was the first person I ever helped like diet wise 4 years ago. He did the Mr.
Oh,
Phil.
really?
Yeah, he did the Mr.
Oh
Philadelphia.
shit.
He wanted me to see him compete because he was into it in his 20s and 30s, and then him and my mom had me and my sister, so he kind of drifted away from it. But he wanted me to see him compete, and that was cool. So that's why I did that show 2 years ago for him because we kind of wanted to see have the same picture on the same stage. So, but yeah, he's still into it. Me and him do legs every Saturday together.
I think I saw that recently. You posted on Instagram, right?
Yeah, he's here every Saturday, still hack squatting and lunging, and he's crazy. He's 64 now, but he just doesn't stop.
Yeah, but you know what though, dude? That's what keeps them going. You know what I mean?
I
I
know.
honestly, I wish my dad took more of like just sometimes, especially for the older generation, it's just about moving, man. Like you don't necessarily
Yep.
have to get that much into the whole bodybuilding concept, but just having that kind of outlet to keep your body moving and going in the right direction can be
Absolutely.
a big savior. So that's cool to see him do that. So then, as far as competing goes, obviously you did have that point where and even on social media, like I said, I didn't even know who the hell you were. I didn't even know that you were a Jersey based guy, but I actually have phonetic dyslexia. Everybody on the show has heard this 65,000 times, but like so even like me looking at your name, dude, there's no way I'd ever be able to pronounce your name. It's actually easy when somebody else says it, but I can't hear it and then say it back. It's just that's my fucked up. So like even looking at it now, it's like Mitropoulos. I don't know how the fuck to say it. But like bottom line is it stands out to me. So like I remember that last run that you had. I remember seeing all the hype on Instagram and everything. So obviously, if you want to give us a little bit more in terms of that trajectory up to that point, what happened there from there, and then from there, what's gone on? Because at the end of the day, from there, I think it's really been more along the lines of coaching and stuff. If I've seen anything about Steve, it's been about his coaching, not about his competing.
Yeah. So I competed pretty much every year up until 2 years ago. And then obviously the COVID year, which I think we were all kind of, you know what I mean, like in limbo with. But I did like 2 to 3 shows every year up until, like I said, 2 years ago, which is the last 2 shows I did. And then I won the collegiate nationals in 2017. And then I was gonna, we were gonna take a year off and then hit a national show finally. But then my parents actually got divorced in 2018. They started going through that, so that kind of hit with real life kind of started to hit at 25 a little bit more for me.
Yeah.
And I was done college. I was working at you know what I mean? And, at 25, when something like that happened, or happens, it's like competing kind of like becomes secondary to real life shit. You know what I mean? So that was tough. So I was forced to kind of grow up even more. I mean, I always felt like I was like more of an old soul anyway, but I had to go from 25 to like 35 real quick.
I was just going to say, you say that, bodybuilding takes a back seat to real life stuff like that. But I think we both also seen people, push through things like that to try to compete because it is their identity. It is who they are. It is almost more important to them
Yeah.
than those types of things, which obviously shouldn't be the case, but nonetheless.
Yep. So that started transpiring. So Johnny was like, listen, we'll take the year. You know what I mean? Like, we're not, you have to, obviously this comes first. I had to make sure my mom was okay and all that. Me and my wife we barely made any money. I remember like we bought our house here in October of 2019. That's when I won Big Cat. Because I was getting ready for Junior USA's in 2000 and what was it, 19, I believe. Yeah, 19. I'm sorry. That's when we bought our house. So my parents were still going through their stuff. I tore my bicep in March of 2019 at work. So I had to pull out of Junior USA. So then my headspace got
What were
messy.
you doing for work at that point?
I was working with students with disabilities, so like Down syndrome, autism, all that. So I was like, I was writing like lesson plans, doing restraints. So a kid had a really bad behavior, and we were trying to restrain him, and my whole bicep from here just popped up into my armpit.
Wow.
Yeah, so I didn't train for 4 months at all. I was in a real bad headspace again with that. My parents were going through all their crap still, and then I actually pushed the recovery process. I forewent surgery, and then I started prepping for Big Cat 8 weeks from the show. And I called Johnny. I'm like, I need something to keep my mind focused because we were closing on our house. My parents' stuff was, all in this year. You know what I mean? Buying a house in this year, still working. And I'm like, we're going to do Big Cat. I don't care what we have to do. I have 4 people doing that show because that's when I first started coaching. And I was like, let's just do it. You know what I mean? So he was like, okay. So then that was an 8 week prep, and I wound up winning that show. And then he said, well, let's try for Easterns. Well, my look for that show went to complete shit because of all the stress from the house. So that was a lesson learned with that. Should have stopped after Big Cat, but you know what I mean, is what it is. And I feel like lessons like that we all have to go through anyway because they actually help you in the long term, is what I've learned. Yeah. So my parents finally were settled with their divorce and all that. Life was a little more clear. And then me and my wife lost our house in June of 2020. We had 3 trees.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, 3 trees fell on the house here. So COVID was going on. The house got destroyed, and I went back into a depressive hole again. Similar to how I was in high school, actually. That was a really, really rough year. You know what I mean? Like, I just was a year into coaching. Gyms were closed. We're sitting in this little apartment, can't do anything. No one's working. So that was that. And then started prep for Junior USA's and the Mr. Philadelphia show right after New Year of 2021. And I won the Philly and then got second at Junior USA's. And then after Junior USA's, I got Lyme's disease.
What?
Yeah.
Shit, dude.
2 weeks after the show, my whole left leg like swelled up. And I was in a leg brace for 3 weeks on crutches and was in the hospital for like 4 days. They had no idea what the hell was wrong with me. They ended up draining 900 cc's of like fluid from my leg and my knee.
Fuck.
And yeah, so that was that. And then I got married in 2021 September. After that, I feel like, I knew I wanted to be a dad. Which if you asked me that the year before, I would have been like, no. But then me and my wife, we wanted to try and start having my daughter.
Wait. What changed your mind? If you go from a year to not wanting to have kids, I'll be honest, I didn't want to have kids, period. I have 3 kids, but I never wanted to have a kid. I was like, no, fuck that. As soon as Yeah, it wasn't until after I had my first child that I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I could see where this is going. Yeah.
So I always wanted to be a dad like that. It was never I didn't want kids, but after seeing my parents like
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
everything went through, it kind of just left like a really bad mental taste. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and mentally I was still going through all that. But I know, we both wanted to be parents. So after the wedding, I was getting busier with coaching, and I was like, okay, well, I have to do the necessary steps to be able to make sure I'm in a good spot to have a kid with, steroid usage and stuff over the previous years. So I was on like all the fertility stuff, all that, and then my wife had 2 miscarriages, so that was the first like 2 months we were trying. She got pregnant, 2 miscarriages, and then she got pregnant in March after like 5 months of trying, and then my daughter was born last November, and here I am now. So
Nice.
So when did you I'm going. When did you move to coaching full time?
2021,
So recent.
June of 2022, 2 years ago.
Is that when you guys were still in the apartment?
Yeah. No. Sorry, we just moved back into our house in March of 2021. I already was in prep for Junior USA.
So did you have when you got what made you switch over to coaching full time? Like obviously so you were making that much money already with coaching is what it basically comes down to?
So I went to college for health science, and then my minor was special ed essentially. So I couldn't be a full-time teacher. So it was just something that was presented to me as an internship I did my final year at Rowan. So they were like, hey, this school in Burlington or this company needs a school aide. So I was like, okay, well, they're going to pay me $15 an hour. Like I'm 22. I need something to pay my bills. I worked at Vitamin Shop at the time. Screw it. The hours are great. They're 8 to 3. I can do my fasted cardio. I can go to the gym, and I'm done by 5:30 every day. Great. I have the summers off paid, the holidays. So it just kind of fell into that rut where I was doing that for 4 years. And then Johnny's actually the one who pushed me. He's like, Steve, you complain about this job. I'm in restraints every day with children. Started to get to me mentally. He's like, why don't you just start to advertise? You're taking, 5 people for free. See what you can do with them. I'll mentor you. I'll help you, and just keep learning. He was like, enough definitely to help 5 overweight people or lifestyle people lose weight. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I didn't have enough self-confidence, and then he just kind of forced me to it. And I just like started posting stuff on social media, and then I got one guy who wanted to compete locally. I coached him for free, put him on stage. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. And then I said, you know what? I'm just going to keep going and not give up until I'm where I need to be, you know what I mean, to quit this job. So I think I made like a mental note. I was like, okay, once I have 40 clients consistently for 3 months, I'm resigning from the school district.
Oh, so, wow. Was that quick, huh?
Yeah. So it was like over this. So I started like promoting that in 2019 in the summer. And that's when I was essentially just sitting there. That's when I tore my bicep. That's when I was just sitting there and I had nothing to do. So I think I only had like 3 or 4 people, and I was helping them for free, and I was still working in the school district. And then 2020 is when COVID hit. I only had when we bought our house, I think I had 18 clients, and that was it. And I'm still working.
So you basically bought the house off of the previous job, though.
Yeah. They couldn't count They couldn't count 15, 20 clients paying me because it wasn't enough time. You know what I mean? So it was pretty much off the school district and my wife making $8 an hour as a hairdresser.
Nice.
So we would pay our bills and have like $28 left in our account. I remember that.
Yeah, for sure.
But if anything, it just teaches you better habits and better monetary habits and such. And then 2021, when I was getting for Junior USA, I was like, listen, I've had 40, 45 clients now for 3-4 months. I'm going to resign from the school. I professionally, I stayed until the end of the year, until June, and then that was it. Yeah, no, I'm here.
That had to be. See, I would have been scared of shit because I've
I
had plenty
was.
of times. Yeah, I've had plenty of times where like I went up to whatever. I was the guy where like I lived around that like 20 to 30 client range for a long time, a really
Yeah,
extended period of time. I remember the first time I had some trajectory. It was like I went up to like 50 clients for maybe like 3 months, and then it just came right back down to like 20 clients, and it wasn't like anything really changed in terms of what if anything, I felt like I was offering more, but it
right.
was just I don't know the popularity level that I didn't have or whatever it was. But at the end of the day, that I remember that time vividly. But then I also had another time where working through a gym, I went all the way up to like 70 plus clients from that place that I was maintaining around like that 30 to 40. I shot up and I went to that 70. This is in 2018 out of nowhere. I just, 75 clients. And it was like, as soon as I got 75 clients, it was like, boom, right back down. Everybody started dropping because at that point, it was fully on me. I didn't have the systems in place and I didn't
Yeah,
have the consistency in place. Like I was missing emails, I was missing phone calls. I was like, saying that I was going to be at this show and didn't show up to the show. Like I was just all over the fucking place and couldn't really handle it. And then I had to build that back up with better systems that are the systems that we still use today. But yeah, at the end of the day, for me, that would have been something where it was like scary as shit. I
yeah,
would have shat myself, especially with a
yeah.
house and mortgage and
Yeah, oh, yeah, it was. And then like my wife was still in college, so she's a teacher now. She's been for 2 years now, so she was finishing her degree with that. So, um, yeah, I mean, I don't. I kind of like I blame my dad in a good way for kind of where I'm at now, just because he's always been like a hard ass on me, and he's always like the no risk, no reward type mindset, like very very old school. Um,
right.
so you know what I mean. So
Nice. So now I would say Steve is definitely one of the and like for me when I'm thinking of I have a very limited follower that like I don't follow that many people on Instagram. I've never been I mean I don't know. I guess some people might find that to be like I'm trying to I just never have. I've never been a
right, of
big
course I don't
yeah,
blame you.
but bottom line, through the people that I follow, the lens that I have, when it comes to coaches in New Jersey, there are very few that I think of as far as at that level where it's like, oh shit, like they're definitely like able to post, because the way that I judge coaches, honestly, I don't know about anybody else, is based off of like the proof is in the pudding. You know what I mean? Like I want to see like how many people like there's a big thing nowadays that rubs me the wrong way where it's like this educational thing where it's like this person's always posting about education, always posting about this, but they're posting themselves. They're posting these and that's great, but it's like show me that you can actually do it. Show me
Yep.
that you actually have clientele where you can prove that this shit works over and over and over again. So I judge people based on the amount of results that they're putting out there. And you're one of the few guys I think in Jersey overall that is putting out, consistently different clients and different, not the same three people every week. And it's just like, you're there, it's real, it's very obvious, it's very seeable, if you would. So how did it get to that point? I mean, obviously it's been a very short time frame. Like I said, I've been coaching since 2013 and I had to have these like I almost think about it as like we were talking about a bodybuilder before this and getting him to grow. It's kind of the way that I think about it. It's like the growth aspect of like bodybuilding, right? Where it's like, dude, it's going to take a long time of like pushing up, cruising, pushing up,
Yep.
cruising. It's
Yeah.
like that's basically what my process was like. But that's if I had to go from being a fucking welterweight all the way up to a super heavy. It took me years to be able to get there. Whereas it seems like for you, it was like you're the super genetically gifted bodybuilder that basically like your coaching trajectory exploded within a couple years.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Tim. I don't really know. Just like I don't, I feel like I just kind of keep my head down and I just make sure if somebody's reaches out and they're like, hey, I want assistance and I need your help, I make sure I do 101% for them. And as long as they listen, and then I just post them up, and then that post turns into somebody inquiring and whatnot. And I don't really know that I haven't done anything like specific or special, you know what I mean? Like I've never paid for ads or anything like that. I just kind of I guess everything's been word of mouth and everything I've just before and afters I've posted. And nobody ever really helped me with social media or anything like at all. I never even thought to ask for help. I just always figured like no one's really going to hand it to me. So you kind of just have to do it do it myself type thing. So I just figure like, hey, if I have a solid before and after, let me post it. Let me put a little bit up of this person because, at the end of the day, like people want to know what that person had to go through for a relatability type thing, right? Like that mom or dad of 2 kids, like wants to know there's another 35-year-old out there that it was able to get to the gym 4 times a week and eat 5 times a day and find an hour a week to meal prep. So that's why I make sure, like I guess strategically from that point, I just always made sure I put something about the person. But yeah, I mean, I never looked at it like how you just put it, like within 2-3 years, going from having 5 people to, where I'm at now. I'm at,
I want to say where you're at now.
right. So I capped myself at 90 clients.
Oh, nice. Good.
Yeah.
Good, good.
At one point, a year ago, I had like 140 and it
It's
was
too much.
I couldn't
Yeah.
do it. I would say probably like 20 to 30 of them I never even heard from. I'm like, why are you paying me? And then morally,
Yeah.
I just found it correct to reach out or stop their payments and let them know. And now I can't take more than 90 people.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good thing because it keeps me more grounded on work is work. And what I do now as coaching is work.
Yeah.
And I love it. But I still have to, just because I work at home, I need to learn that when I leave this office, work stays in here because
Yeah.
my daughter has no idea what the hell's going on. It's not, you know what I mean? So, and just seeing her now every day, like she's giving me a whole different purpose. Like if it wasn't for her, I'd probably still be driving myself crazy with 120 people. But once I pick her up from daycare, nothing else matters. So
I hear you on that. I basically had that weird thing where like my kids I have a 16-year-old and a 9-year-old, and then I have a 4-year-old. So like I had a pretty big gap between
yeah,
each one to where it was like business oriented. And then all of a sudden the last one, I'm now 38. So I'm old as shit compared to you guys. But bottom line is I this is my last, like I'm not looking forward to another child after this. So the bottom line is for me, it's and this will lead me to a question for you. It's turned into now, how do I make sure that I'm able to maintain what we're doing from this is our intake, right, as a family, to also I want to spend as much time as I can with a 4-year-old. You got that coming to you soon. She's going to get to that point where she starts to produce her own personality. And like I tell people, like that 2 to 4, I know people talk about terrible twos. To me, a 2-year-old to a 5-year-old is like the best time, dude.
yeah,
It's awesome. And you just watch them kind of grow into this person. They're fun to play with. Like my daughter's down there right now, and I'm going to hang out with her after this instead of going to the gym most likely. But the point that I'm trying to get to here, or the question I'm trying to get to here, would be, have you thought about anything for yourself in the near future? Because even 90 clients, like for me, I'll be honest, it's too much for me right now. 90 clients. We're recently working with a new system here, and the whole idea behind working with that new system is to be able to scale that and make it a little bit easier to be able to handle those clients, to where from a quote unquote systems perspective, everything's like right in front of us, and it's just easier to go for, instead of like opening up 3 different things on a G Drive, opening up my WhatsApp. Like I'm trying to condense things so that I can even have whatever 75 clients and make it easier for me to maintain that 75 clients rather than needing to take on more and more and more. Because as a coach, I don't see you doing anything just the same way that we don't do it, or I don't do it, where it's like I'm not doing classes, I'm not doing like where some of these other guys like maybe step out of the realm of being a coach, but they're making more money, and that's kudos to them. It's
yeah.
just not my thing, right? I love coaching. So like for you, have you thought about any type of like future concept here for you to be able to put yourself in a position to where you don't have to have 90 clients, but still be able to make money?
And as you answer that, like, do you do anything special? Because like my understanding from like Matt showing me his check-ins, like you literally just operate off of like email. But do you have anything on the back end that you do to make that easier?
No, so I've like, well, all right. So to Tim's question first, like, I mean, I like coaching just, like you said too. So I haven't really like thought about anything like long term, just because I love what I'm doing now. You know what I mean? Like maybe, I don't know, maybe in a few years it might turn into something where like, like Johnny does now. He does mentorships and he has like 40 clients. You know what I mean? But he's also at the point where the guy's charging, so much money where all these functional health, clients are paying him like a ton every month. So, I mean, shit, if I could charge that much, I'd only deal with 40 people too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't know that I ever would want to be at that point. You know what I mean? Because I truly enjoy helping just the average person that's going to pay us, 250, 300 a month as like a normal coaching fee. And you know what I mean? Because those are the people that I feel like myself can relate to the most, right? Like I always look at myself as a normal person, a normal dude first before a bodybuilder. And now as a father and a husband, you know what I mean? Before anything else. So I never thought that far. I just am like, hey, I love what I'm doing. 90 people, you know what I mean? Seems over the last year, I found like seems to be that sweet spot where you're working full time. You're at 10 shows every year. You know what I mean? Like it's a good level of competitors and lifestyle people. So you have that balance, and it gives me enough time to spend with my daughter and my wife and still be able to do things, that real life requires while keeping sane, like training and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah. And then to Marina's question, like I just do everything off a good old document, PDF, a check-in sheet, and email. I don't have anything like fancy. I'm like very like OCD, and I like very simple. You know what I mean? And like I tried the Google Drive thing 2 years ago. It drove me freaking nuts. And I'm like, if it's driving me crazy, what's it going to do when I send it to somebody? You know what I mean? So I feel like now too, just because I make sure I screen who I'm going to help and stuff at this point now over the last 6 months to a year, I have like a phone call with everybody up front. So I guess those are systems, I guess we could call them, right, that I put in place.
Yeah, 100%.
So like I won't, if somebody pays me without I talking to them, I literally I'll go right on PayPal and refund them until I talk to them. Because I'm not gonna do that and then have them waste time and money for a week and then be like, I can't do this. You know what I mean? Because
right.
it's just not worth the time, and it's going to be more of a therapy session. I found, like, so I have a phone call. I put that system in. I guess I have like a application thing I have on Instagram. I want people to fill out first and whatnot. I won't work with anybody unless they get blood work first or have had it in the last month or two. That I've learned big time from Johnny. You know what I mean? Because how are we going to help somebody up front? Tim, and like if there's something else going on, like people just want to start with us and start to lose weight right away. They don't know that there's a whole process that you have to become accustomed to first before, you know what I mean? You can actually start to just like put somebody in a crazy deficit. So I guess all those systems I've put into place, I just kind of looked at them more of like trying to make my life easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
we have a similar thought. I even feel like a fucking crook sometimes. Marina knows this. We've been talking about this for a long time, actually. Where like I feel like a crook sometimes charging 300. Like I my price for a while, not to get too specific with that kind of stuff, but like my price for a while was $300, and like I got almost pushed, I think, to be able to make it that way. And honestly, man, every time I sent that out, like there are some times where it's like, you know what, if like I have supply and demand at a certain point too in terms of my time. You know what I mean? Where it's like I really don't have enough time to take on that many more people. I do now. I didn't for quite some time, and it was one of those things where it's like it's almost like it has to be that cost. But at the same time, I know for me, again, a very early father, and it was something where it was like I didn't have the money to pay a lot of coaches, and like I only was able to afford coaches within certain different time frames within my process. And it's like I know if somebody was out there and they were trying to charge me $300 back in 2013, 2010 when I got my first coach, like there's no way I would have been able to afford it. No fucking chance. No, absolutely zero chance. And it's like, why would I want to get rid of me? Like I would have been a good client. I think I was always a good client. So like, why would I want to like funnel out that person? At a certain point, we have to bring into consideration time, and there's only a certain, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it happens, but yeah, that's definitely a big thing for me too. Is like that. I don't know if I want to call it like integrity. I don't think there's anything wrong with charging more when you have to charge more. It's just a matter of I don't know. It's like to me, coaching somebody for 500 or 600 or $700 a month or whatever it is these big ticket coaches are charging right now. I understand it to a certain extent. I do, but at the same time, it's almost like how long can you really help somebody on that scale for? You know what I mean? It's like I can't afford to pay somebody $600-700 a month over and over and over again like that. But yeah, I guess at the same time, growth hormone's pretty expensive too. So I guess you got to pick and choose like where your priority levels are.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what's next for Steve at this point? Is there anything? I mean, obviously we talked about the competitive side, but I mean, in totality, like, is it just a matter of, hey, I'm just loving my life right now and I'm doing what I'm doing? And obviously, like I said, on the personal side, we could talk about the competitive plans, but in terms of the coaching business going forward, nothing on the horizon that's a little bit different or a little bit more. I guess Matt is something that's a little bit different for you, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Matt, we're trying to obviously build his book up and stuff. I know I've never seen a kid that young work so many damn hours in my life. It's absolutely insane. So I tell him I talk to him frequent. So me and Matt, I'm at the point with him. I look at him like I look at my other client, Joe Deutsch, like he's like a little brother, you know what I mean? So I try and help them in that sense. Like, hey, listen, I was just here not too long ago. It's only 8 years ago. It's not long, but when I look at my life, I try to tell them a lot of shit, real life shit has happened in 8 years. And that's how fast life can change. So we're trying to build his, book up and stuff. I'm trying to help him with the promotion on social media. I tell him once you get 1, 2, 3 people and you do good by them, it starts to roll in, right? But because social media is like our best friend, it's free marketing. So I guess, yeah, that's new. Other than that, not really. I mean, we want to have another kid, so I know that's something big.
Wait,
so
how old's your daughter now?
she's 10 months.
Oh God, Jesus, just wait, dude. Everybody does this, man. It's like kid after kid after kid. I'm telling you, like, do you know how crazy it's gonna be when you have a 2-year-old that wants nothing but your attention, and then you got one in diapers that can't be put down. Oh God, Jesus. No, but I don't blame you guys though. Once you have a princess, it's like, everybody. What do you want? Do you want a boy now?
No, I want another girl.
Yeah, there
You're
you
a
go.
girl
You're
dad
good.
for sure.
Yeah,
Everybody says that
100%.
to me. They're like, you're so like mild mannered, mellow, big heart. I'm like, yeah, I love my daughter. She's the best thing ever. It's the cool.
I love my son. I love my son to death. I'm excited to go pick him up. I haven't seen him. It was his mother's birthday last weekend, so he stayed home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen him, so I'm excited to go see him and get him. But with that being said, there's nothing like a little princess. I love every second of watching those two grow up. I tell everybody, like, the boys are the boys, you know what I mean? Where it's like my son is an absolute goddamn fucking maniac, and I love him for it, but it's exhausting too. So,
No,
but go ahead.
my daughter is the reason why I built my gym in my yard too.
I was going to ask about that. I think we need to have. I want to know about the gym because it's badass and I want one. But I also I think off of that, and I want to touch on something first. But off of that, I think we also needed to have the discussion before we let you go of who's more of a hermit crab, because I've heard this from a couple people now, like, who's worse, Steve or Tim, in terms of not going anywhere. And I think I honestly win the battle, even though you have a home gym, so you basically don't have to leave
Yeah,
your
you
house.
literally don't
So,
go
like,
anywhere.
but I've also seen, like, dude, you're going to a fucking. I saw it on Instagram today. You're going to a concert for what's the band that you're going to see?
Of mice and men.
Oh no, I thought I saw one for Bullet in my.
Oh
Bullet
yeah.
for,
Oh, so they're playing together.
oh, gotcha. Mice and Men would be my
Yeah,
thing too, instead of the
so
other one. But wait, hold on. First, before we get into that, I just want to touch on this real quick as you're talking about the big heart, like, so, like, dude, you're not, you don't appear to be this guy though, right? Like, you got the fucking beard, you got the bald head. Like, I would have thought you were far more, meathead-esque and like bodybuilder-esque. Yeah, you're the exact opposite. And I seen this now from afar, where I think, being where I'm centered, I think there is a little bit more contention when it comes to like coaches and bodybuilding and all that type of stuff. And then honestly, and then I didn't notice this until even that Big Cat show where I met you. Like, you go down south, and honestly, and this might be the first time I've ever said this, like, on any type of public forum, but like, it's awesome being down there with you, like, all you guys. Like, Nick is awesome, fucking Stretch is awesome, you're all like, everybody from the Aries team is awesome. But the one thing I would say with you specifically is you have a very, like, real side about you where you're super supportive of everybody in that area, dude. Like, I see you reposting people, like, you're not shy to be able to lift up somebody else as far as the coaches and, anybody that's even competitive with you in some way, shape, or form in that regard. Like, you're very supportive on that end. And I think it's something that, I think that in and of itself probably has gone a long way in terms of your evolution as a coach and how fast that evolved. It has to be something. And the more you talk about your process and your story, I'm sure there was something you got from your dad. I'm sure it's something you're going to bring on to your daughter. And trust me when I say, like, that's not a trait that goes unnoticed.
I appreciate that, Tim. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I don't like ever. I've never tried to be anybody else. You know what I mean? But like myself, I guess, being genuine's always been, my thing. And you have to be. I've always felt, you know, I'm always like to myself, right? So, but like opening up, like when I talk to like somebody like you, and I'm able to open up about my parents' situation, losing my house, the whole suicidal thing, being bullied, all that, like those things make you realize that life is really short. And there's so much negativity already out there that, you know what I mean? Just being positive, being supportive of others. I feel like, the more we can put out there, the more, contagious it becomes, right? So, like I said, I've never tried to be anybody but myself. Just you got to be supportive. It's not that difficult, right? I feel like it takes more effort
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
to be a douchebag than it
Mhm.
does just to say good job to somebody, want them to do well. Like it's just there's so much to go around, and there's already so much evil and negativity out there. And life's short, it's but yeah, I mean, I just keep to myself. That's really all there is to it. I don't
So
know.
on that note, now we get into this battle. Where'd the idea for the gym come from? Was that a COVID thing that just kind of stayed afterwards?
So I'm like somebody who like really enjoys my solitude. And I think that stems from my anxiety and from being bullied and what I went through in high school. Um, like I've never been one that likes the public. I've never been one that likes to be in like a public setting. Um, so when COVID started, um, my dad was like, "Hey, you have that shed in the backyard that's not doing anything. Why don't you just go on like Facebook Market and we'll start to like look for just shit we need, right?" I actually called the homeowners of my house in Cherry Hill that my parents had to sell. My squat rack from when I was 17 was in the crawl space there. They let me in the house. I crawled in the crawl space. We took the rack out.
Yeah.
So I still have that. We bought like a bunch of old dingy shit for like $1,000 off Facebook Market. We drove to New York, Delaware, all over the place. We put it in my old shed, and then it got destroyed when the trees fell.
Oh.
So I saved up, and last March I had in Lancaster, Amish people came and dropped this shed on my yard, and within a week, me and my dad put rubber floor down. We insulated sheetrock, put an AC unit in there, put like these two huge speakers just so we could blast death metal and train. And I've been piecing together equipment now over the last year and a half. And then, yeah, I barely leave my house. I haven't been in the gym since March of 2022.
God bless you. God bless you. I wish Amish people came and dropped shit in my yard sometimes. Right? So I have my own gym. But I see it's weird though, because like you brought up the anxiety. Like again, everybody here knows my background. Like that was a big thing that kind of shaped me when I was younger was then I'm like formally diagnosed with like a social anxiety disorder, and it played a big role in my process in high school was essentially that where I missed more school than I actually went to because I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to be part of the whole, it was hard to go to school on some days.
Right.
So and unfortunately it was more than not, it was hard for most of my high school career. So it ended up being a scenario where when I was in my senior year, I had to make up all 4 years of my gym class in 1 year to be able to graduate, which unfortunately I didn't graduate. It took me 5 years to graduate because I missed so much school. But the bottom line is I had to spend those the football team was doing really well at the time. The school just built a brand new gym, weight room specifically for the football team. And they allowed me to spend two blocks of my gym class in the weight room. And it was something where it was like whenever the gym class was actually in weight room, like I'd be in there with the gym class, or I was in there by myself. And the one thing that like made me a little bit less anxious was being in a place, because I was in there so much more than everybody else. I knew just a little bit more. I knew what this machine did. I knew what this
Right.
was. I was the guy who was benching. I was the guy who was deadlifting. And it was, I spent time with the football team and Coach Chick and all this different. And it was like one of those things where it was almost like I built some sort of place for myself there, right? And
Right.
then from there, it transitioned right from there into a commercial gym where I knew everybody else was going to school for something. I was like, fuck it, this is the only thing that I'm ever been like into. I'm
Yep.
going to become a personal trainer, and I got certified literally the year, like whatever, the year after I graduated or whatever it was, and so it was like one of the first jobs I had was being a personal trainer and working at GNC. And it was like those were just the environments that I felt comfortable in, because I felt like I had a little bit more knowledge base there. I felt like a little bit more, I don't know, just at home there. So for me, the only place that I feel comfortable in a crowd is like I feel like I can walk into any gym and I kind of belong there. I can walk into any place like that and I kind of belong there. But otherwise, I don't want to fucking go. It doesn't matter what, like, even if it's a concert or like I'm a huge baseball fan. Like, I have a couple friends that'll message me all the time. I have one old client, Sadri, that'll message me all the time. Do you want to go to the Yankee game? I'm like, bro, I'm not going to the Yankee game. I love you, death, man, but there's no chance. I
Yeah.
love the Yankees. I love baseball, but I'd rather watch from home. It's just the type of person I am. So we're different in that regard. Where like the only place that I want to be in public is the gym, because it's like the only outlet I get from that perspective.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm at home chilling.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. My shed, it's like so different being in a public gym versus in there, because I have no mirrors. I just blast death metal and I just train.
That's always good.
And
Yeah.
it just, I don't know. It's just a lot, like, it's a different focus. You know what I mean? Because, like,
Yeah.
even if I wanted to talk, there's nobody to talk to. I just have to talk to myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but the reason why I did that shed was because of my daughter.
Yeah.
Because we found out my wife was pregnant, and then I said, all right, I've been talking about getting a new shed because this one's destroyed. Now that we know you're pregnant, I'm gonna do this now, so I'm here more. You know what I mean? Because driving to the gym's 20 minutes, back is 20 minutes. You have to account somebody definitely going to talk to you there that that's another 30 minutes. So, I'm like, I accounted for all that, and I'm like, okay, now I'm going from the house now 3 hours, where I can walk in my yard 20 feet. I'm taking that 45-minute commute out of it, and now I'm taking 30 extra minutes at the gym. I train for an hour and a half, and I'm back in the house.
Yeah.
So it just kind of worked out well, and I just knew that once my daughter was here, I didn't want to miss a single second. And if I was at the gym for any longer than I knew I should be, I was going to regret it. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be honest. That is one thing that I can tell you. I get a little anxious in the gym sometimes when I know it's like the family's waiting for me.
Yeah.
And like we're especially on a day that like we have something to do.
Yeah.
Where like I know, and again, it's whatever you're doing is fun, and like on the weekends or whatever. It's like I get a little bit of like, let me speed this up and get this shit over with instead of actually training, right?
Yeah.
So I get it. Listen, I'm not saying I wouldn't like having my own gym. I would definitely love that shit. But it's like, at a certain point, I'm worried about Steve. You know what I mean? We got to make sure Steve gets out a little bit more. Right. But no, like I said, you obviously still do some shit. Like you're going to the concert, right? Like how often would you say you get out and like do something?
Well, he goes to shows.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I hate bodybuilding shows.
yeah. Yeah, you and me both do.
I can't stand bodybuilding shows. I don't
So-
like them.
They are torture.
So now
Torture.
off topic now. I want to go somewhere else because we only got you for a couple more minutes here. But why the fuck are you doing it to yourself again? How many people you got in Big Cat?
Oh.
12 should be 13. It's probably going to be 12. Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't you learn your lesson last year?
No, clearly not. So
Yeah, obviously.
it kind of like rolled into where now with my daughter, I'm like, these people, everybody, all these clients want to do Big Cat. It's a well-ran show, right? I know I'm comfortable with the venue, the judging, you know what I mean? Like, what you get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's actually a show where like, I feel that especially when it's somebody's first time, it's a way better format than when you go to North Jersey or New York, where it's like this. You know what I mean? Like just another number there. I mean, we all know
Yeah.
it. You know,
Yeah.
and that's not speaking negatively. It's just
Right.
Craig runs those shows, the Lehigh and Big Cat, where everybody does their routine, which I find is important, especially for a first timer, for confidence, right? I don't care if you're not in the top 5, you get to do that routine. Like people that are competing for the first time, you both know, they're going to have 20 people there, friends and family watching them. It's the coolest thing in the world to these people. So from a coaching side, I think that's important that when it's their first time, that format is as comfortable as possible, right? The check-ins comfortable, it's welcoming. The show is welcoming, it's comfortable. The judging, you know, you can ask the judges there. Nikki and all them, they know who we all are. What do they have to? They give you honest feedback, and they don't just email you back. Bring your quads up. You know what I mean? So I think, like, I have like 8 of them. It's their first time competing, so it's important. You know, it was important that they are at a show like that where the format's very comfortable for them. You know, I have like, you know, Jordan's doing it. He's no stranger to the stage. So it's like, it's different. You know how it is, Tim. Like when you're coaching somebody who's been through it, we both know what the expectations are. You know, I mean, there's a little more hand holding when it's their first time. And I understand that it has to be because they don't know what the process is. They don't know what a peak week is. They don't know that they're not going to have a menu on Friday and you have to tell them and send pictures 20 times. Like they don't know this stuff, you know? So that's kind of why it bunched up into 12 people again. Also too, my daughter's birthday's in November. We're trying to take her possibly to Florida, to Disney for like a weekend.
Nice.
So might be like a Friday to Sunday type thing. And
when's her birthday?
November 28th.
Oh shit! Maybe we'll see you there. That's our annual Disney trip too. Is in November.
So, you know, it kind of just bunched up into that naturally again. It wasn't something more intentional, but it kind of worked out again because I go crazy for a few days and don't sleep for 2 days straight, 3 days straight, and then after that I have, I think 3 people in November, and then Jordan's going to do nationals. So,
oh yeah, he's looking really good.
Thank you. Yeah, he's like right where I need him to be. I guess we could say, right? So he's just on like cruise control. I guess we can call
it. He looks so much more full though, and he looks so much fuller. Right? Not more full. He looks so much fuller than I've seen him in past preps. And he's another one where I literally just started following, but I've always seen him on the Aries page.
Yeah.
And like I said, he looks so much more, he looks ready for that national stage this time, where I know he's always had some good placings and some good showings, and he's done a few shows, if I'm not mistaken, on that level. But like I said, this year, he just looks like he's full as a fucking house. He looks like a men's physique competitor. He looks like a top level men's physique competitor, right? Where it's like that level of fullness that they're bringing now is a completely and totally different thing than it was even 2-3 years ago. Yeah. Over the course of the last couple of years, they've really demanded. I know every conditioning. Yeah, but you better be full as a fucking house if you're stepping on the stage as a men's physique competitor nowadays, and he's there right now.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think the biggest difference with him was just food.
Yeah,
because I told him like, dude, just you got to get ready to eat.
Yeah.
And when I saw what he was eating the most before, I'm like, just get ready to eat double this, because you could see genetically, you just go through food, like you just can see.
He's got that long. He's round. He's round as hell. He's bubbly as hell if he's fed, right? But he's got that long physique where I can tell he flattens out really well if you're not feeding him on a regular and consistent basis.
Oh yeah, I mean his process.
Yeah, you can see it.
So like with him, it was just a lot of fun. You know what I mean? Because he's somebody where like you give him back-to-back days where it's like 700-800 carbs, and he'll send me pictures, and the dude gains no weight, but he's just like, you're like, how the fuck are you this full?
Yeah.
And you don't get, like, sure, you're a little watery, but like I'm like, dude, how are you still 212.6? Like you just ate 1,600 carbs. Like,
yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what? It's like unfair, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I think that was his biggest thing. I think the PED side of things was a whole different thing as well, which I'm sure.
In terms of a more conservative approach?
I think it was conservative, but more conservative. But I also think too there was just things that like he never did to get the look.
Really?
Yeah, like and like he even told me he's like, this is the least I've done.
Really?
And I'm like, yeah, well, like these other, I don't know who's helped you prior, like, but I'm like, nobody probably took into account in inflammation from how much shit you were doing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's huge. You know what I mean? Like, that, like a lot of
Yeah.
people
Yeah. Yeah.
count, like, okay, you're taking all this stuff, you're injecting all these milliliters of oil that is at the end of the day, your body doesn't want it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you do realize there's going to be a huge inflammation response. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
Johnny's taught me a lot about that, like
Mhm.
over the years. And I think too, his digestive health too was never prioritized.
Yeah. So it's hard to feed somebody 1,600 grams of carbs over 2 days when their gut is a fucking wreck.
Yeah. I mean, now he's like, I'm actually hungry.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, dude, like this is, but I don't know. I'm sure, you're the same, Tim. We look at these things and we're like, these are like essentials that coaching should be. But
Yeah.
then there's times where I've seen like people ask me for help or like Johnny showed me. And I'm like, how I don't understand how like people miss like very basic things. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but it's also it comes back to like your upbringing, who coached you as far as Johnny is concerned, and like understanding like, because I remember I remember speaking to one of his figure pros. This is a little while ago. She went to the same gym as I did, and she was talking to me about Johnny's plan and like talking about how like betaine hydrochloride. She's like, I never even heard of that fucking, like she was amazed at betaine hydrochloride. And I'm like, really? Like you'd never like you made it all the way to this level of competition and you had never heard of betaine hydrochloride. She's like, no, like nobody. She's like, I just thought I was supposed to, have heartburn and have like horrible digestion and all this different shit closer to a show. Yeah. So like I know. So for you, it is. I don't want to say basic information, but yeah, kind of basic information. You know what I mean? Like
right.
this is expectations, like going into a thing.
Yeah.
Whereas with some of the other people, even the coaches that have been around for a long time, and we don't need to say any names, but I know who he's working with before you. And it's like these people have been around for literally since men's physique division has started, and they've had a really big name within that category. And it's still one of those things where it's like, how do we miss this, this, and this? Well, because, and I was just speaking to somebody who would, literally tell me flat out, like, dude, 60% of the people that I work with will never make it to the stage. And it's like you only see that 40% of people that they work with. And those 40% are the genetic responders that are going to respond to just about anything. They never have to worry about gut health. They don't have to worry. And we can make them better by worrying about those things, but they've never had an issue within that
Right.
realm. So they don't have to worry about if they're going to a coach that doesn't, right? So those coaches get away with not, talking about any of that stuff, not dealing with any of that stuff, maybe not even running labs more than once or twice a year. And maybe they're just doctor run labs that really have nothing to do with hormones or anything like that. They're just looking at fucking, a basic CBC and metabolic panel at best, right? So I've seen it all the time for a long time, to where it's not a surprise to me anymore, because it's been that way, where I've always looked behind the curtain and I've always been excited to see what is this person doing? What is this person not doing from a coaching perspective? Like, oh, they have, and it always turns out the same 100% of the time, no different whatsoever. That it's like, oh, they have the same shitty genetic. No offense to my clients, I love you guys to death. Shitty genetic, like not well structured people too. They're just not posting those people because they have such a good portion of people that are genetically gifted,
Right.
that do respond really well, that are top level competitors, and they're making their money and they're making their Instagram reels off of that, as opposed to the other group. And it's like there's people like me where honestly, and I don't have any problem saying this, but like I'm never going to get, and I've told Marina this too, like if we have a really good competitor, we're going to build them from scratch. We're not
Right.
going to get the person that is, why would they come to us if they can go to Steve, if they can go to Kyle, if they can go to Nick, if they can go to these other guys that have really well established bodybuilding credentials? You know what I mean? They're going to go to you guys first, and I get that, I understand that. But now the clients that we have that we build up, they're going to come with that same mentality where it's like these things are basic. Why aren't other people doing these things? So that's just it's your background. It's where you come from. But dude, listen, we've had you on for a while, and I know it's like, we basically went through who Steven is. I think, we would definitely want to get you back on at a certain point and maybe talk more bodybuilding specific, as opposed to just talking about Steve in the background and everything. So But listen, we definitely we appreciate you having you on. If you want to give people, your credentials and where to find you, as far as the Instagram handle, wherever else you find yourself recently, yeah, we'll wrap it up here. But I definitely want to have you back on to talk about its topic specific at some point.
Yeah, whenever you want. Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. Yeah, my Instagram, again, my last name, probably no one's gonna be able to spell it anyway, but it's
Yeah, either way, I'll link it below for everyone. So
it's at Steven Mitropoulos. Yeah, that's really the only place you can find me, other than unless you know where I live.
Metropolis is easy, by the way. If I say it enough, I'll be able to get it.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the zombie movie, my favorite zombie movie. They're in the Metropolis, the mall.
Yeah.
But whatever. Bottom line is, yeah, Steve, we appreciate you coming on, man.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
thank you everyone for listening. Like, subscribe, follow, comment, everything, and share with your mom.
All that shit.
Your mom.
Yeah.